Паспорт віддай.
Руки, сука!
It all starts with Nastya and Mykola living an off-grid life. While he's asleep, she's out in camouflage, trying to sketch a bird, but she only sketches it for a while before it flies away. When she gets home, she wakes her husband with a burst of passion, and even though he worries that he'll be late, they tangle into each other, and only after that does he get ready and head out on his bicycle. He works at a school, and just as he's about to leave for class, he catches the news from the television in the staff room about the growing unrest between Russia and Ukraine, where Russia is already gaining the upper hand. Back home, Nastya keeps herself busy while Mykola teaches physics to a group of high school students. A troublemaker interrupts with spitballs, and Mykola strides towards him to find a phone with an enabling text. The teacher does his best to stay calm and diplomatic with the difficult student named Ivan. He brings the boy to the front of the class to get him to answer a question, but even then, the boy shows resistance and turns the lecture to a spectacle, drawing something inappropriate on the board. Then once the class ends, Ivan sneers at his teacher, calling him an outcast who needs to leave. The couple later get interviewed because of their unusual choice to live in the middle of nowhere. Nastya is pregnant, and Mykola is an ecologist who believes people need to do better for the earth. Moved by his own convictions, he eagerly pushes to show the interviewer around their home and the system they built to generate their basic needs. But the reporter isn't truly interested. She leaves the cameraman inside to gather footage and steps out for a smoke, asking almost casually, "And you're not afraid to give birth here?" "No, I'm not afraid." The reporter mutters that they're insane when she's out of earshot, and she's visibly relieved when the cameraman finally joins her so they can leave. But before they drive off, Mykola walks up to her and hands her the cigarette butt she dropped, gently telling her that there's no room for litter in their little haven. Once they're gone, he assures his wife that everything will be as it should. Later that evening, husband and wife share a bath and scream into the air in pure freedom. Then, by a crackling fire, Mykola strums his guitar and sings a song he composed just for Nastya. Just before they sleep, Nastya hands over a wooden craft she's been working on. She calls it a little angel that will protect Mykola, a gift from her and their unborn child. Meanwhile, Russian soldiers have crossed into Ukraine borders and have come in their numbers into the same area Nastya and Mykola are living. But they're unaware, and by morning, they're just a happy couple sharing kisses and being playful before Mykola sets off for work. But on his way there, he does spot the soldiers, taking a smoke, but doesn't dare to confront them about their presence. When he sees the news in the staff room, he rushes back home and finds Nastya being manhandled by the two soldiers he saw earlier. They accuse her of being a spy because they caught her in camouflage, and they keep beating both of them even as he begs them to stop, telling them she's pregnant and he's only a high school teacher. The assault only gets worse, knocking both unconscious, and then one of the soldiers goes inside, finds nothing threatening, just a family building a home, but decides to set the house on fire anyway. He tells his partner it's time to leave, despite the other guy's protest, and they're already about to climb into their jeep when Nastya stirs back in consciousness and picks up a stone to throw at them. She barely raises her arm before she's shot. They drive off, leaving Mykola on the ground, begging his wife not to leave him. "Please don't die, I'm here." But she still closes her eyes and goes limp, nothing but a corpse for him to cradle. In the blink of an eye, he loses everything. Even the house is collapsing under the flames, and with no strength left to fight it, he just lets it burn. Two new men arrive with guns and questions. They ask for papers, and Mykola nods toward his bag for them to check. He still hasn't moved from Nastya's side and answers their questions in this flat, mechanical way, not even flinching at the rifles pointed at him, almost like he's ready to follow his wife if it comes to that. But that isn't what happens, because one of the men flips through the documents. Looks like he's one of ours. So they trade their rifles for shovels and start digging a grave while Mykola walks through what's left of the fire. In the dirt, he finds Nastya's gift, and even though it's covered in soot, it somehow survived the flames. Mykola lays his wife in the shallow grave and pays his respects before the men help him out and begin covering the hole with dirt. When they're done, he gets into the car with them and they drive off. They take him to their base, but their commander isn't happy to see a stranger that could possibly be a spy. He's even more furious that his men hadn't thought to blindfold the man, meaning he knows the way to their station. While they're debating if they should kill him, he sneaks out of the car and starts inspecting the weapons that have been left unsupervised. The commander rushes over and questions him, but his intent is vengeance. "I want to drive them out of our land." Not long after, he's drafted into the commander's troop for training. They march through the fields and put their weapons together under pressure, but Mykola struggles so badly that he'd already be dead if this were a real battlefield. The commander finally calls another soldier over to demonstrate, and the guy takes the gun apart and snaps it back together in record time, leaving Mykola to follow his lead. The troop does push-ups whether the weather is calm or completely unforgiving. It's pouring hard when the commander suddenly orders them to freeze mid-push-up. He turns to Mykola and asks if he's enjoying their little training camp, especially since he used to be a pacifist, but Mykola shuts that down. The pacifist died with his wife, and whatever he is now isn't that man anymore. "My codename is Raven," he says. "Dead Raven." The commander shoots back. The commander crouches down to his level and tells him that a codename like that has to be earned. With each passing day, the training gets more brutal. Low-crawl obstacle courses, hand-to-hand combat, weapon assembling, push-ups, then the whole thing all over again. But each time, Mykola gets a little quicker and a little sharper, squeezing in practice whenever he can, even when the others are asleep. One day, the commander calls for volunteers for sniper duty to balance out the battle line, and Mykola is one of the comrades who stands up. The commander can't help scoffing, reminding him he still can't even assemble his gun properly, but Mykola doesn't flinch. He insists he can do it. The others snicker, but he goes ahead and challenges himself to disassemble and reassemble his rifle in 20 seconds. Intrigued, the commander grabs a rifle and tells Mykola to come up and prove it. And to push things even further, Mykola pulls the band down over his forehead, sliding it toward his eyes like he fully intends for him to do this blindfolded. The commander starts the timer and Mykola gets to work. His hands don't even stutter, and pretty soon the whole room is holding its breath, watching him closely. When he's done, he pulls off the blindfold and just stands there, waiting for the verdict. The commander finally speaks, calling him by the codename he's been begging for, and announces that he finished in 18 seconds. The room breaks into cheers. Just like that, he's transferred to a new base to officially join the sniper team. Training starts right away, and the first thing the class hears is that nobody likes snipers. There are no forbidden methods of waging war for them. Their trainer continues, talking about how efficient professional snipers are. Mykola raises a question, and the man explains that the best moment to fire is when a louder noise covers the shot. After the lecture, the comrades are handed their weapons for practice, but Mykola is given an SKS instead of an SKD like everyone else. He's bold enough to point it out, and the man in charge immediately gets irritated and yells at him to just get going with what he has. Out in the field, the trainer sets them up and tells them they can't flinch, even if the instinct is natural. To demonstrate, he fires rounds at close range, one after another. Anyone who recoils loses points, but Mykola doesn't flinch. Back in the classroom, Mykola grows curious about the shooting range of the trainer's rifle and whether the enemy might have something more powerful. But it's not a rifle that makes a sniper dangerous, the trainer tells him, but his intelligence and endurance. The next task is the shooting range, but Mykola's shot lands nowhere near the target, and he immediately blames the weapon. The trainer isn't buying it though, because everyone else managed just fine with the exact same gun. But what Mykola can't pull off in the field, he makes up for in theory once he's in class. Still, his biggest motivation is the tragedy that pushed him here in the first place, and he ends up stroking the little angel with a kind of quiet longing. During their next test, the trainees have to call out either code green or code red and decide on the spot whether to fire or hold. Most of the shooters let off their shots almost at the same time, and it looks like Mykola has blown it until he calmly says he hasn't taken his shot yet. The trainer jokes about whether he plans to wait until the next morning, but Mykola doesn't budge. He holds his position until he finally gets a code green, then fires and lands a perfect bullseye worth 3 points. Thank you for waiting. At the end of the exams, Mykola is awarded with a first class, the only with that high a degree among his comrades. Later that night, he plays his guitar and sings his heart out, putting his comrades in a solemn mood. By daylight, Mykola is assigned as backup for an assault on a Russian bridge checkpoint, and he and his team quietly scout the position, agreeing that the machine gunners have to be taken out first. But just as they're settling in to shoot, a civilian car pulls up and a man and a woman step out to show their documents. When the man notices a soldier slip his passport into his pocket, he protests, and the situation instantly spirals. The soldiers pin both civilians down, and it gets worse when one of them strikes the woman. The man tries to run, only to be knocked to the ground. The Ukrainian soldiers use the chaos as their opening and fire on the scattered Russian troops, dropping several of them. One militant grabs the woman as a hostage, but Mykola lines up a clean shot and frees her. With the Russians down, the Ukrainians sweep into the checkpoint and raise their flag. When Mykola gets back to base, he immediately notices 2 of his closest comrades are missing and asks where they've gone. He's told they were sent out on a mission. Klim and Dune had kept watch through the night, waiting for contact with long-range enemy forces, but when the unit finally returns at dawn, Klim's body is lying in the back of the jeep. Things take a dangerous turn during their next mission. The team sets up explosives, knowing the Russians will follow the route. Mykola spots even among the enemy troops, but there's no time to dwell. Cap gives the green to fire, and the field erupts in chaos. Only after the ground is littered with bodies and the Ukrainian soldiers move in to finish off any survivors does Cap ask who Ivan is. When Mykola explains he was a former student, the commander sighs. He made his choice. Later, Cap and Mykola grow closer. The captain's children don't know their father is a militant. He and his wife agreed it was better that way. He notices the wooden ornament Mykola keeps fidgeting with and asks about it. Mykola simply replies, "This is my family." Meanwhile, the Russian army is preparing for a major operation. Their vehicles are camouflaged with branches for maximum concealment, and Seri takes the lead after receiving warnings from his superiors about an area where the Ukrainians are active. While observing the enemy position, Mykola spots 2 Russian militants. Zooming in, he realizes that one of them is the man responsible for his wife's death. Consumed with rage, he calls for a code green, noting the man is armed with a machine gun, but Cap orders him to hold fire and keep watching. Mykola, however, insists he must act. Without waiting for clearance, he releases the safety and fires. The targeted soldier bleeds out, while the second Russian militant takes cover and radios in what just happened. With their position compromised, Seri's team kills Mykola's spotter and unleashes artillery on the Ukrainians. Mykola scrambles for cover, using the spotter's corpse as a shield. He crawls and ducks, narrowly avoiding the blasts until he reaches a ridge they had dug earlier for safety. With Cap's death looming over him, Mykola's superior tells him that the secret services will track down the killer, and when they do, he'll be the one to handle it. The captain's body is laid out in the back of a jeep, with a photograph of his family placed atop it, like a postcard ensuring his return home in spirit. Lost for words, Mykola just stands by the coffin, silently paying his respects before the doors to the vehicle are closed shut. Mykola, now a professional sniper, takes out 2 amateurs with his new silenced rifle, though he gets wounded in the process. He's in the bath when the brigade commander calls. Once he picks up, the commander explains that the enemy is practically breathing down their necks. 2 days ago, Seri killed 2 of their scouts, and today he shot another one at wide range. Mykola tries to press for more information, but the commander says the full briefing has to be done in person and tells him to get ready, so Mykola heads to his workstation and packs what he needs. When he arrives at the designated station, he's reunited with several of his sniper comrades, including Bad. At base, they're briefed on the counter-sniper, Seri, a wide-range professional who has already taken out 8 of their men, including 5 snipers and 3 machine gunners. The Russian sniper turns out to be a tyrant, and even though he's been firing from the same position, they can't just bomb the spot. His hideout is a chemical plant packed with storage tanks, and hitting it could trigger an explosion and a full-blown environmental disaster. The soldiers are briefed that Seri is dug in deep at the center of the storage area, where he knows the maze of cylinders makes it nearly impossible to reach him. On top of that, he has 8 comrades spread around the site, scouting every corner. The plan is to take those men out first so that codename Raven can face Seri one-on-one and end this. The projector keeps flashing crisp images of Seri, almost like they're trying to burn the target into Mykola's mind. And once the briefing is done, no one has questions. The team is ordered to move out. When Mykola settles into position, he spots 2 Russian soldiers and kills one. The second man is responsible for his wife's death. The militant tries to taunt him when Mykola tugs his mask down to show his face, but Mykola doesn't give him the chance to finish whatever stunt he's pulling. He shoots him cleanly, and with both scouts down, he checks in with his team so they can advance. Several Russians drop fast because the Ukrainian machine gunner goes absolutely wild with his weapon, creating enough noise and chaos for the snipers to quietly pick off key targets. Little by little, they sever Seri's connection to his men. When one of Seri's 2 backups fails to report, he finally senses something's wrong. The entire group has gone silent, and he orders his remaining soldier to reposition immediately. With that man out of the way and the path opening up, Mykola edges closer to his target while staying completely concealed. Seri sends the soldier ahead to stand guard while he climbs up to check the roof. There, he finds the bodies of 2 of his men. He radios the update to his commander, who tells him to hold his position. The other soldier is ordered to guard the entrance, and Seri heads back to his station, unaware that Mykola is already 1 step ahead of him. Raven pulls out his knife just as Seri settles in, then drops down and drives the blade into him. Seri screams and tries to fight back, but it's pointless and he dies. Mykola follows it with a grenade, and the guard at the entrance instantly realizes he's done for. Backup arrives moments later, but Mykola doesn't even consider running. Instead, he takes the dead man's rifle and wristwatch, then gets into position and prepares for the next wave. His first shot drops a Russian militant instantly, and the rest spill out of their vans and start firing. But Mykola isn't alone this time, and the long-range snipers backing him up take out whoever they can. Once the perimeter is finally clear, Mykola drifts down the same path that once led home, even though there's almost nothing left there now. The cross marking Nastya's grave is leaning, so he straightens it gently. He tells her he'll need the little wooden angel for a while longer, then turns back toward the fight. Guide your hand, Lord, to destroy all enemies on this land. This is his life now, winter or summer, belly to the ground, eyes locked on a face through a scope, finger always itching for the trigger. And that is how it ended. It's a wrap for this one. Keep watching for more. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.